Hey, this is Evan from the band Cola. I am Cola's drummer. I'm a Toronto man through and through, but currently in Brooklyn, New York, studying.
Nice. This is exciting because I didn't realize now it's all coming together. So you're the drummer. So you were also the drummer in US Girls, correct?
Yeah, I toured with Meg for a few years.
I probably have seen you then on stage because I've seen
Oh,
them
okay.
many times. So
Oh,
cool. So if you've ever played in Brooklyn, yeah, that's very cool. But awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about Cola. I know it's very timely. You guys have your LP out this Friday, Cost of Living Adjustment, May 8th. This will be out after it's out. So we're kind of talking from the future. But how do you think it will feel when it's out?
oh, good. Yeah, I'm excited. The clock is counting down.
Yeah, you're
There's
like,
so much to do before then, but I'll be flying to Montreal that day to commune with Tim and Ben. Yeah, we're having a nice little party at Casa del Popolo, which is a legendary little venue in Montreal, and be a good time.
yeah, really exciting. It's like final countdown. Well, I like to start always from the very beginning. So we're going from the future now all the way to the past. I'd love to hear what your relationship with music was like growing up.
My parents love music, and they have a pretty wide range taste-wise. My dad always claims, "Oh, I don't have any musical talent," but he's actually one of the hottest dancers in town. My sister got married on the weekend. So there's some dancing, some family dancing, and yeah, he was busting it out. Amazing. He grew up in Toronto in the trades, and so was just always hanging out with lots of different people, just like to go out dancing, like to get down. And my mom is more, she just loves a good melody, just a real song appreciator. And she's a singer, very much a singer. So it was always around growing up, but never in a professional setting, but just very supported. And then grade 7, I think I was kind of messing around on the drums a little bit by then. I just was in class with other kids who wanted to play. And a 30-second walk from my school. So I just had my classmates over all the time. We would just jam nonstop.
That's so fun. Wow.
Just come up with riffs and just. So just from early days, just jamming with people, playing with people, writing quote unquote tunes. I feel like we didn't really write full songs. We just riffed.
Yeah.
And then just played a lot in high school, went to performing arts school, went to university for music. In Toronto.
Was there a big music scene in Toronto? I'm not as familiar.
Yeah, Toronto is really incredible. My friend Tom to say it's the world's best kept secret. Like in terms of music scene.
In terms of live music, when did you start going to shows and getting in that scene?
My first concert would have been when I was 13, but it was removed from my actual life. I went to go see my favorite band, who were, aside from the fact that my mom's friend knew the mom of the drummer, was able to get me a signed drumstick. Totally removed from my musical life. But then quickly after, by the time I was in, I want to say early high school, maybe even grade 8, started going to hear music that was more tied into whether it was a friend was playing or maybe one of my teacher's friends or something like that. You know, when you're going to a show and you're not going to a big rock club and seeing a band that you idolize. It's just like you're witnessing music happening in your community.
Yeah, totally.
And that's something that Toronto is really incredible for. Just such an amazing local scene. I think part of it is because it's so hard to play in the States. As a Canadian, there's barrier to entry. Like you need some serious paperwork. You need a visa that costs a fair bit of money. You need a booking agent. It's hard for just people to scurry off and go move to other cities. So people stay put in Toronto and often stay under the radar, right, in terms of international recognition or whatever. But just so many incredible musical minds hiding there.
Yeah. Well, I think best kept secret is the perfect way to describe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So it makes sense also just having you being a drummer, like your dad having good rhythm, right? And then your mom
Sure.
being the musician. It all kind of works out. So when did you start toying around with the idea of, oh, maybe I can play? Like, did you want to be in a band, or was it just something that kind of happened unconsciously?
The first friends that I played with, the very, very first friends that I played with, we were totally delusional. This was like grade 6, 7. We thought that no one had ever thought of forming a band. Because we thought of that, we were like, oh, that means we're going to be famous. We're going to be actual musicians because we thought to be in a band. Sure, early aspirations, I was like, I'm going to be a musician. And then, honestly, my ascent from that delusion has been so slow to the present moment that I don't remember when I was like, oh yeah, being a musician is a real thing where you have to work for it. And, I don't know.
Awesome.
I guess early days, it was just obsession. I was learning drums and playing with all my friends. And by the time I was like finished high school, I think I was pretty into the idea of being a musician. And I had made friends with enough musicians older than me who were making it happen for themselves that it seemed like a possibility.
That's an amazing position to be put in, because I feel like it's almost the opposite concept of imposter syndrome in a way. Like, yeah, like reverse imposter syndrome, which is refreshing to hear.
See it happening right in front of you. So you're like, that means I could do that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's really interesting. And did you always know, I guess it sounds pretty subconscious, but the idea of not being solo, more of the idea of collaborating and being in a band, what specifically drew you to that?
I don't know. Just because music was always something I do with my friends.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So very cool. And what was your first, like, when did you start putting out music and kind of was like, oh, this is a tangible thing that I'm making and creating?
Probably being involved in the little things in high school, maybe just playing. I remember one of my friends in high school who was really one of the first people I started playing with in junior high. Do you guys call it junior high in the States?
Yeah.
Middle school?
More middle school. I
Okay.
think, yeah, that's a good question. I was never really sure what junior high was.
He started working at a studio in our neighborhood. I'm going to make a record. I think that was probably the first time I ever played on an album that he then put out modestly. We were in high school. He just distributed among friends and, but
Totally. Impressive though for high school.
this is a great, Aaron showed him out. He's a really great producer, pianist, just multi-instrumentalist, amazing in Toronto. I can't remember the first time I would have played on a record that came out on a label. It might have been with I was in a band Tassiomancy, now Lightman and Lightman. And that might have been the first time I was involved in a commercially released album when I was, I want to say 22 or something.
Wow. That's impressive. And then kind of going more to the present, how did you connect with Tim and Ben?
So Tim's partner, Amy Fort, she was working as a sound tech in Toronto. She's tech for all kinds of people, big, huge. She's a really talented sound person. And she was working at a venue in Toronto that I was playing, just like a local spot, still around. I'd play there a few times a week. So I would wind up seeing Amy 3 times a week, and she would mic up my drums, with a chat. And eventually she was like, oh, you should really meet my boyfriend and check out his band, Ott. I think you guys would hit it off. And it probably took a year, but eventually that band I mentioned, Tassie Mancy, we were billed with Ott at a Pop Montreal show. And so I got to meet the gang. And Amy was doing sound for Ott that night. So she was there to facilitate me meeting those guys. And of course, the music was so awesome. I was immediately an Ott fan. And then because they were touring, I was touring, we would just run into each other all over the place, all over the world.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Tim moved to Toronto, actually, shortly after I met him, because Amy was there. So then we would actually have chances to just hang out, listen to records and talk. And
That's really cool. It's like this whole theme of your music career, which I do find a lot with people I speak with on my podcast. It's this kind of community that you are like so unaware, maybe aware of, but maybe not to the extent of like how impactful it is of connection. And what you said about Toronto being so community based, it makes it like the perfect scene for something like that to come together. And I just feel like it's never that coincidental, not to be too woo woo, but it's just things to work out how they're supposed to. I always say it's a woo woo positive podcast.
yeah, nice.
But that's so cool. And you guys formed back in 2019?
Yeah, that's when we had our first jam where we were trying out some new material.
Nice.
But we had actually toured together. Tim's solo record, Saturday Night. I was on one of the legs of that album cycle. So Tim and Ben and I were on the road together.
Oh, nice. You kind of got like a test run of how you guys, because that's a lot too, as relationships with bands. There's a lot of elements. So you got to kind of test it out. Yeah.
For sure.
And then in terms of sound and style, for someone who's totally unfamiliar with you, what would you say your pitch is to describe your sound?
Yeah, I'd say we're a post-punk band and that we write songs that are very tightly knit for the most part.
Yeah.
Pretty natural sound in terms of production and really lyric focused. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were my takeaways as I've been getting familiar as. It just checks it off the box. Yeah, it's really fun, especially lyrically. I have some questions about that later on. But like, how did you guys come up with the name Cola?
We were in we had a deadline for a name because we had submitted the record to Fire Talk. Was like, yeah, we love this record, we want to put it out. But then we had to come up with a band name. And what we liked about Cola is on the final track, Landers, on our first record, Tim makes a reference to soda. And we liked the way it tied in with that, but also that there are all of these other associations with cola. One of them, this acronym that we've chosen for the title of our third record, Cost of Living Adjustment.
Right.
So we like the multifaceted aspect of it.
Yeah, totally. No, that is exactly. I wasn't sure which came first. Yeah, the name of the SP or if it was, because it's not like your band isn't like C period O period. It's just Cola, right? But then the album is the actual big C. Yeah. So did the LP name, how did you like, was it intentional that to spell it out as this, what it stands for? Or did you one day guys like just realize how this kind of works if we break it out into cost of living adjustment?
It was in our back pocket from the
That checks out. Yeah.
And maybe a bit of a reveal, but not really, just in the sense that we're not trying to say this is what it meant the whole time to something, but just trying to add layers of meaning to what we're presenting.
I think that's really cool. Like, because music is such a living, breathing thing. And then to have your name also be like, have this evolution in a weird way of, it really, I feel like it aligns well with a lot of what you guys put out thematically. And what would you say, like, how does Cola feel different to you personally compared to some of your previous projects?
For one, Just the writing process. For me, it feels like the writing that I used to do in middle school.
Oh,
Just in that someone just has an idea and you just work it. I feel like so much of the music I've been making in the last decade, maybe because of financial constraints, time constraints, it's so efficient for one person to be in charge and be like, okay, I'm writing all the songs and I need accompaniment. Or maybe they already made the record and you get sent the record and you're just learning something that's already done. Or a lot of music I am involved in Toronto is very improvisational, which is a kind of different beast.
yeah.
Cola, we're trying to pin down the perfect arrangement, like the perfect track. So that's definitely different.
That sounds different and challenging, but in a fun way.
Yeah. Yeah. Our writing sessions, I find them so rewarding. Also really takes a lot of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the process like?
We always, because we tend to be like separated in space, we always send ideas just in a Google Drive folder. Like when it's time to start working on a new record, we'll make just a folder we can throw things in. Often we'll set some deadlines. For a long time, we've done Friday's song day. Everybody's got to toss a riff or a song or something in the bin. And so we just spend some time with each other's ideas, separate. And then we get in the room and actually hash it all out.
That's from what I know, not that I make music, but it sounds unique and in a really effective approach almost because it's like, it's so collaborative, but you have so much room to like take it into your own interpretation. So it's like almost a more advanced version of collaboration in a weird way. I don't know. I just never really heard of that. That's interesting. So it can be like literally anything from a riff to just a thought.
Oh, I guess we've never just sent in voice memos. I'm hearing the guitar doing always some concrete recorded music. But yeah, sometimes things wind up in there that are like that are for a different format, like in terms of instrumentation even, but we might try to work them in, like for Cost of Living Adjustment, one of the singles, Conflagration Mindset, started as like a synth and just like a synth thing. And there's no keyboard player in Cola. You know? Yeah. But just the idea seemed right. And so Tim wound up figuring out a way of voicing all the chords on guitar, and Ben wrote this really cool bass part, and so it came from that.
That's really cool. So there's never really a specific order of how it comes together necessarily.
Yeah.
And does usually where does the songwriting and the lyrics come in?
So Tim writes all the vocals and lyrics, and usually it's a ways into once we've actually cracked into it, like together in a rehearsal space. I feel like the instrumental arrangement will be like pretty far along.
Yeah.
Before Tim will reveal what he's dreamed up to Ben and I.
That's so interesting. How do you, from the drummer perspective, how do you take in what he wrote and kind of use that for your creative process?
I definitely melodically, like once he's put that extra melody on top, change my part. I think I usually change my part just because it gives me ideas.
Yeah.
Like I hear, oh, he's singing then, and then there's a space. So it's, oh, that space would really be the time for me to give a little commentary on what he just put forth. So yeah, definitely. Or sometimes it's just absolute renewed excitement in a song. Like, it's funny, sometimes we'll be jamming something and we played through it so many times that you that I start to think, oh, maybe this isn't going anywhere. Like maybe it's not even a good track. And then Tim will just throw something on top that just puts the whole thing in perspective musically. It's like a real, sometimes shines the light on something that otherwise just wouldn't have been worth keeping, maybe.
Yeah. I guess adding to that, how do you guys then decide or know when a song is actually finished?
God. Maybe once it's recorded.
Or you officially have to be hands off?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe sometimes it's just, oh, that's done. But
yeah.
At least the last couple records. Because the first one was pandemic. I feel like our lives were not as busy, and
Totally.
I found there was more time to just meditate on what the songs are. But the last two records has always felt like time has not been our friend.
Right. Totally.
There's just not enough time to really explore every avenue, every iteration that a song could take on to really see what the right one is. But we could maybe spend our whole lives. So it's probably good to just put something down and move on.
Totally. Yeah, I would imagine that must be one of the most challenging parts of, especially collaboratively, to all be like, okay, this is it. This is where we're going to take our hands off and give it to the world. It's a very vulnerable process.
For sure.
I'm trying to think. From this album, given the name, what does it mean to you? It could mean something personal, I don't know, but larger, like politically. How does it resonate and land with you?
For me, the biggest one is this. It's like adjusting to the politics that have been normalized in today, especially looking at the United States. But we also have in Ontario, the province that Toronto is in, we have politicians really jumping on that kind of Trump style of communicating and style of like how to get something through, even when there are all of these other bodies that are part of the political structure that are trying to push against something, like how to just ram something through. And of course, the way people like that get elected in is because there's something that the majority need or unhappy with. Usually it's something economic that leads to this kind of populist politics. So it's the adjustment. The way I thought about it is the adjustment to a new political status quo because of the changing economic reality. So it's like the cost of living changes, and then we need to adjust to a new political reality. That's how I think about it. But I think the other guys would have other ideas, interpretations.
And as well as the listener, which is the cool part about putting something out and seeing how it lands for people. Do you find like when you perform or like when as you're planning, I know you guys have a big tour coming up. What do you hope the audience sort of takes away from the experience of seeing you guys perform it?
Yeah. Funny, I think about this or at least like when we're on the road, I'm faced with that every night, like considering what was felt on the other end. My experience of it is so different. So this question that I find it really hard to find it. I really grapple with this. I'm not really sure. Just something to chew on, something to think about. I guess I just hope what I love to happen to me when I go out and hear music, see a show, is just to be surprised or to hear something that I haven't.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not surprised, like some kind of shock, but just to open people's imagination a crack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's how it should be. Like, something. Like you want them to take away something, but it goes back to what you're saying about how someone may interpret like the whole concept. It's very subjective, but you're just putting it out there for people to interpret how they want, which I guess is art. And at its most, foundational.
Yeah, me personally, I really don't want to. I don't want to speak for Two and Ben, but me personally, I want to leave room for people to not. I think it's fine if someone doesn't respond to music. I go and see a lot of music, and I feel really lucky when something touches me. But if I'm not particularly touched, I'm still glad to have gone and had a little nibble of whatever it was I saw that night.
Yeah. I really like that. That's a good perspective.
My partner,
With all,
my partner and I talk about that as going to church. It's so you go to hear music, not because every time you're going to see God or something.
yeah.
Like you go to church to just be with community and but then every once in a while you hear a sermon that really makes you think differently.
Yeah, that's a beautiful analogy. Yeah, that's
I didn't go going to church, but just
I'm Jewish, but the sentiment for sure of it's just out there for you to take as you need it, right? And I think that's a really selfless perspective as a musician to offer that for people. Obviously, you have a lot of things coming up, the whole album, but is there anything specific that you're looking forward to within the next few months that you're working through?
yes, we're touring Australia. I've never been.
Oh, cool. Wow.
So that's pretty exciting. It's going to be a real slog. I'm not looking forward to the flight.
For sure.
I'm looking forward to petting some koalas and jumping in a kangaroo's pouch. And also just connecting with people out there. My friend just came through New York, tour managing a couple bands. Dust from Newcastle and Bel Air Lip Balms from...
Yeah.
We're on a bill with Bel Air, actually. And Dust said they were going to all come out to our Newcastle show.
Yes.
And they're both just such great bands, so excited to connect with them and surely meet some other folks as cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really fun. And then you are also touring in the US?
Yeah, in Europe.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And it's all through the summer?
Into the fall. We'll do Europe, UK, October, November.
Nice. Okay, yeah. I think I saw a June date in New York, so I'll definitely try to show up for that. Yeah. Awesome. And then it's just some random questions that I like to ask people. If your band had a mascot, what would it be?
So we would... Gosh. Gosh.
Not an easy question.
Yeah. Okay, so Ben loves football.
Okay.
He loves a lot of things. But he's also a supporter of the United Ireland.
Oh.
So maybe our mascot would have a Republican, I don't know football well enough to know which teams are.
Yeah, same.
Probably, but yeah, in Jersey, maybe. Maybe it'd have to be some kind of animal.
You know, when you said koala, it kind of stuck with me. I was thinking,
yeah,
koala in the jersey.
Yeah. If we were a Aussie band.
Yeah.
Maybe to represent me, it's a raccoon. Because raccoons are just everywhere in Toronto.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
More so than in Brooklyn.
Yeah, you see raccoons just constantly.
Nine.
I want to say nightly.
Wow.
I remember the last time I saw a raccoon in Brooklyn, honestly.
A raccoon, it climbed up the fire escape and went into my kitchen.
Wow. Okay.
I have beef with raccoons.
Okay. Yeah, I've always said that they're like terrifying, especially when you hear them fight.
Ooh. I don't know if I've heard that. No.
Okay. It's the sounds they make. It's the most blood curdling. They do these crazy growls and these screams.
Oh, great.
Sorry, not to like go off, but this is common. this is really common in raccoon fight, is that there'll be a raccoon getting chased slowly off a branch. Like, because they'll have been intimidated to the point where they had to go onto a branch to back off, but then the other raccoons start climbing the branch until the raccoon is just on the tip. I've seen raccoons fall off the end of the branch, just boom, hit the ground. And the whole time they're doing these crazy sounds. There's this high-pitched scream, and then there are this vicious growls that are really gurgly and bubbly and watery. And raccoon.
We're definitely looking this up on YouTube after.
Hey, so right around here we ran into a technical error, unfortunately, so we weren't able to properly wrap up the episode, but I really hope you enjoyed my conversation with Evan and maybe learned something new, whether about raccoons, cola, music, all of the above. Cola's new release, Cost of Living Adjustment, is out now and available wherever you get your music. I really enjoyed the record, and I hope this conversation with Evan makes a nice companion piece when you go check it out. And with that, here is Evan one last time to sign us off.
Thanks so much for having me on the show.